Shalom, Yisrael. My name is Yashar Yehuda, and the title of this video is Gentiles, Greeks, and Strangers. That's Gentiles, Greeks, and Strangers. Alright, so the purpose of this particular video is to bring edification to the body of Mashiach, which is the whole house of Israel, the 12 tribes scattered to the four corners, as mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 64. All right, so we get that verse right quick, and it reads, "And Yahuwah shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone." All right, so we see that in the Hebrew, the word for nations is goyim. And in the Strong's Concordance, you can find that it's H-1471. And that word is defined as Gentile, heathen, or nation. So the word is goyim in the Hebrew. All right, and it's translated as Gentile, heathen, or nation. All right, so what you're going to find out as you read in Scripture, and you hear a lot of these pastors out here cherry picking scriptures and taking scripture out of context, as you'll find out, it seems to have the scripture would seem to have some types of contradictions. And you may ask yourself, why does scripture seem to contradict itself? When it says that Elohim has no respect of persons, and that's found in the book of Romans. Romans chapter 2, verses 10 through 11. So let's read those two verses right quick. And it says, "But glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the Gentile." All right, verse 11, Romans 2 and 11, it reads, "For there is no respect of persons with Elohim." All right, so those two verses describe that the Most High does not have any respect of persons between Jew and Gentile. But we read in the Torah, in the book of Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 9, a scripture that seems to contradict that. So let's get Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 9. And it says, "For I will have respect unto you," speaking of Israel here, "and make you fruitful, and multiply you, and establish my covenant with you." So here we read in the Torah, in Leviticus chapter 26 and 9, that the Most High said that he would have respect unto Israel. So that seems to contradict what's read in the New Testament here. In Romans chapter 2, verse 11, where he says he has no respect of person between the Jew and the Gentile, or the Jew and the Greek. All right, so the answer to this particular conundrum or riddle or mystery is that the Greeks and the Gentiles mentioned in the New Testament are Israelite strangers, or they were Israelite strangers who were once included in all of the promises and the covenants and the glory and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim. And those scriptures, that particular scripture, can be found in the book of Romans chapter 9, verse 4. So let's read that right quick. Romans 9 and 4. And it says, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim and the promises. All right. All right. So who are these particular Gentiles and these Greeks that's mentioned in the New Testament? All right. So we know that the Romans, the Ephesians, well, you'll find out that the Romans and the Ephesians, the Corinthians, the Galatians, and the Colossians that the Apostle Paul wrote to in the New Testament were Israelite strangers referred to as nations of the diaspora, or scattered nations of the 10 tribes. To answer this particular mystery of who the Gentiles were in the books of Acts, Romans, Ephesians, Corinthians, Galatians, Colossians, and the Philippians, this can be fleshed out when you study the Greek and have a general understanding of who the strangers were in the Tanakh/Old Testament. Scripturally, in the Torah, there were two main types of strangers in the Hebrew. You'll find out that they were the Ger stranger and the Nakar stranger. The Ger stranger is the Israelite that is born outside of the land of Israel, according to Exodus chapter 12, verse 19. All right, so let's get Exodus 12 and 19. And it says, 7 days shall there be no leaven found in your houses. For whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. All right. So we have the examples of the Ger stranger. So in that verse in Exodus 12:19, that word for stranger there is Ger, and that's found in the Strong's Concordance H1616. All right, so it's telling you about that for this particular feast of Passover, that the Ger stranger and the one that is born in the land is saying that there's to be no distinction made between these two types of people, because they are the same people. All right, they're both Israelites. All right, so we have the examples of the Ger stranger being called an Israelite also in Leviticus 25 and 35. So let's read Leviticus 25:35. All right, it says, and if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. So right here, this particular word, stranger, is in the Hebrew, in the Strong's Concordance, H1616, and that's that word Ger. And it's saying that the Ger stranger is the brother of the Israelite, or the of the Israelites that's mentioned here. All right, so again, Leviticus 25, it brings out the fact that the Ger stranger is an Israelite. All right, and if thy brother or thy kinsman be waxen poor and fallen into decay with thee, thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger/Ger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. We read that the Ger strangers equals Israelites from another nation, or born in another nation. These people were allowed to eat the Passover, yet there is a distinction made between the Nakar stranger, which is a true blood foreigner, who were not allowed to partake of the Passover in the book of Exodus chapter 12, verse 43 and 44. All right, so let's read Exodus 12 and 43. And it says, and Yahuwah said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover, that there shall no stranger eat thereof. All right, so the word stranger in this verse is, in the Hebrew, is nakar, and in the Strong's Concordance, it's the number H5237 or H5236, and it's nakar, and it's referencing a true blood foreigner. So we see that the scripture makes a distinction between the nakar stranger, which is the true blood foreigner, and the ger stranger, which is an Israelite born outside of the land. Oh, so now we can move on to the New Testament and its use of the terms Gentiles and Greeks to describe Israelites born outside of the land of Israel, or estranged Israelites who keep a foreign culture and language. There is history of the northern kingdom of Samaria, known as the house of Israel, that was divorced by Elohim in Jeremiah 3 and 8. So let's read. I'll get Jeremiah 3 and 8. All right, Jeremiah 3 and 8, it says, I gave faithless Israel her certificate of divorce and sent her away because of all of her adulteries. So that's Jeremiah 3 and 8. Also, we have the reference in Jeremiah 7 and 15 of the northern kingdom of Israel being divorced by the Most High. And also in Isaiah 50 and 1. And we also have the example of Hosea 1 verse 6 and 9. I'm going to read that right quick. And it says, and she conceived again and bare a daughter. And Elohim said unto him, call her name Lo Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel, but I will utterly take them away. Then said Elohim, call his name Lo Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your Elohim. So we see in Hosea that the Most High is describing his divorce from the northern kingdom, which was known as the kingdom of Samaria. So also in Hosea 2 and 23, we see that Elohim says that the Israelites of the northern kingdom are not his people, and he is not their Elohim, which means they were divorced, and the covenant, the binding covenant that he had between those people and himself was annulled. All right, next we move on to Matthew chapter 4, verses 13 through 15. So let's read that right quick. All right, Matthew chapter 4, verse 13 through 15. And leaving Nazareth, he came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, in the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Esaias the prophet, saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea, beyond Jordan, Galilee of the Gentiles. All right, so we see in the book of Matthew that Yahusha and the disciples were in the region occupied by the Samaritans, Israelites. And he referred to that land as Galilee of the Gentiles. And that word Gentile is found in the Strong's Concordance, and the number is G1484. And it means, and it is, in the Greek it's ethnos, and it means nations. All right, so we see that the northern tribe were described as Gentiles by the Most High Son, Yahusha, in the book of Matthew chapter 4 and verse 15. All right, so the Samaritans were called Gentiles there. We also have the testimony of John in John 7:35. So let's read that verse. All right, John 7:35. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles to teach the Gentiles? All right. All right, so that word dispersed is diaspora, and it means scattered Israelites. All right. So you'll find out, if you read into the history of the northern tribe, you'll find out that the northern tribe was scattered by the Assyrians in 722 BC. And they were known as the lost tribes, the 10 lost tribes. All right, but that particular verse in John 7:35, they are it's translated as Gentiles, but the word is actually Greeks, and is found in the Strong's Concordance. It's G 1672, and it's Hellenes. So the scripture says, where will he go? Among the Greeks to teach the Greeks? In this verse, we see that the Jews said that Yahushua would go among the Israelites who were not keeping the customs and the laws of Israel and Elohim, and were referred to as Hellenists/Greeks, because many kept the culture of the third beast, which was the Edomite Macedonian Greek kingdom, who ruled over Israel from 332 BC down to 164 BC. And these particular Greeks forced their language and culture on the Israelites at the threat of death. We also had the testimony of James chapter 1, verse 1. Let's see. All right, James chapter 1, verse 1. James, a servant of Elohim and of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. All right, so we see that James refers to the 12 tribes and how that they were scattered or dispersed abroad. All right, so we also have the testimony of 1 Peter 1:1. And we just seen what James said. So 1 Peter 1:1, it says, Peter, an apostle of Yahushua HaMashiach, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. All right, so we had the testimony of James and all, as well as Peter, who were writing to the same people group, which were the scattered or dispersed Israelites. And these people were referred to as Gentiles and Greeks, but they were really the Israelites from the northern kingdom and Israelites from the southern kingdom that were not keeping the laws and keeping the custom, and they were going about under Greek names and using the Greek language and keeping Greek culture. So that's why they were referred to as strangers, Greeks, and Gentiles. All right. We also see in the book of John chapter 12 verse 20. Let's get that. So John chapter 12 verse 20 reads, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. All right, so this particular scripture should make you ask, what are Greeks doing coming up to worship at the feast? So why were there Greeks at the Israelite feast before the Apostle Paul and before Peter ever went to Cornelius, before the Apostle Paul ever went to the Gentiles to evangelize among them? The answer is these Greeks were Israelites who kept some of the customs and culture of their Greek conquerors. Read the book of Maccabees for more insight on that. All right, next, what about the testimony of the book of Mark, chapter 7, verse 26? Let's see. All right, 7:26 reads, "For a certain woman whose young daughter had an unclean spirit heard of Yahusha, or heard of him, and came and fell at his feet. The woman was a Greek, a Syrophoenician by nation, and she besought him that he would cast forth the devil out of her daughter." This woman was an Israelite foreigner who didn't keep the law. That's why she was referred to as a Greek, due to the Greek captivity that the Israelites underwent. All right, finally, we have the testimony of John about the Samaritan woman at the well in the book of John, chapter 4, verses 4 through 7, and verse 11 through 12. All right, let me read some of that. And it says, "And he must needs go through Samaria. Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Yahusha, therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well. And it was about the 6th hour, and there cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahusha said unto her, Give me drink. The woman said unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? So we see that this Samaritan woman said, Our father Abraham, which means she was kin to Yahusha / Jesus. A key verse in this exchange is verse 9, which says, The Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Why? Because the Samaritans were divorced by Elohim for their apostasy and were equivalent to common Gentiles, or true blood foreigners, due to their false gods and foreign cultures that they had held on to. You couple that with the fact that the Samaritans were called Gentiles by Yahusha and the disciples in the book of Matthew chapter 4 verses 13 through 15. All right. So that is a brief explanation of the strangers, the Gentiles,